Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday, July 9th meeting of the Conservation Commission. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business, approval of minutes for the meeting on June 25th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
One abstention,
One abstention.
since I wasn't here.
Brad, yep. Next up, Certificate of Compliance, 242-1045, partial COC request for 430 Osgood Street, North Andover Public Schools.
Alrighty. So this order, Commission's familiar with, it governed the complete redesign of the North Andover High School campus, and later was amended to include artificial turf fields at Walsh and the track and natural grass baseball field and other associated drainages and site appurtenances. This request is coming before you within a footprint where the DPW needs to make some drain pipe repairs for the drainage system that is underneath the southwest corner of Walsh Stadium. And so we have the engineer from Apex with us this evening. And I had asked Apex to actually do this request. And I think I'll just hand it over to you and just give it a brief overview.
Sure. My name is Jamie Villette with Apex Companies. So as Amy mentioned, this project or this request is being driven by drainage repairs, which is also being submitted concurrently, a NOI application. So first off, we're requesting the partial certificate of compliance within the southwest corner of the Walsh athletic fields. This partial certificate of compliance is for between the athletic fields and Cochituic River and is about 2,500 square feet that we're requesting for within the 200-foot riverfront area. And from our initial investigations that were performed back in October 2024, we went out, we performed CCTV inspection to get a better understanding of where the damage of the pipe was occurring. And I guess I'm not trying to present the proposed work necessarily, but it overlaps. So that's what's driving this partial COC request so that we can come before you and get to the NOI and the proposed work for the observed damage. It's just approximately 6.5 feet downstream of the drainage access manhole on the southwest corner of the athletic field.
Before we get started with the commission, a little background on this. I questioned it too, why we would need another PCOC for the high school project. This particular project, NOI submittal, is outside the scope of the partial certificate of compliance that we previously issued for the school system. So since this wasn't covered by our previous PCOC, dotting their i's and crossing their t's and covering this area that they propose to work on. So that's why we're doing 2 PCOCs for the school system. So anyway, I'll go to the commission. Marissa, you up first.
Yeah, just a question on that drain manhole. So it looks like on this plan there's no invert out, but then the invert out is 90.6.
That's correct,
Okay.
from the 30-inch corrugated metal pipe. So at this drain manhole, there's 3 inverts in, one from a 15-inch pipe, a 30-inch pipe, and a 12-inch PVC pipe, which was observed during the CCTV inspection. And then all of this drainage infrastructure converges at this point and outfalls to the Cochituic River about 60 feet outfalls about 60 feet downstream of this drainage structure.
So you have all the inverts identified?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's all. This is just the
Yeah.
kind of the paperwork part, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I to understand this 30-inch and the 15-inch, they were not accounted for in the original design plans?
Yeah, they were missing from the original plans that we had submitted 2 weeks ago. Or
What, do you know where they're coming from, what they serve?
yep. So at this point, the drainage system converges. It's believed to be collecting stormwater from the parking area, and then it's believed that it is the infrastructure from the former high school was left in place. Catch basins were turned into drainage manhole structures, and that infrastructure remains, and then the perforated drain pipe for the athletic fields were constructed on top of that drainage infrastructure.
Well, this ain't your fault, but that's a heck of a miss, isn't it? I mean, we're saying it's gonna be in compliance with the original design plans, and I've got a couple of unaccounted for pipes just coming in here. That's unusual.
So this is the, what you're looking on the screen is showing the proposed drainage system for the athletic field after the demolition of the former high school. But some of the former drainage remains in place because it's still conveying stormwater from the adjacent parking area.
So the parking area wasn't thought of when this original plan was made?
No, I think it was part of the plan.
It was. Some of the infrastructure I believe remains in place, from my understanding from the record drawings. And then there was additional drainage infrastructure installed, but it all converges at this access manhole and then discharges. So there's an infiltration galley for under the athletic fields that discharges to, or is conveyed to this drainage access manhole before the outfall. And then there's the additional 15 and 30-inch pipes that lead to this drainage access manhole, which from my understanding conveys stormwater from the parking area adjacent to the Walsh Athletic Fields.
So where were the parking areas designed to go?
I think they were always up here. And-
Yeah.
And these fields were just.
Driveways and parking, it looked
Yeah,
like
they were
parking.
a footprint of the old building and parking. Then they shifted everything up. The high school went up, and there was a parking area. So this is parking that was originally proposed and built, and then where the where the old high school was going to be fields. But then they decided, well, let's do artificial fields and this, that, and the other thing.
I would just see a 30-inch pipe that wasn't accounted for coming in, and we're supposed to be sitting here saying that, okay, yeah, it's in conformance with the design plans, and that's a pretty freaking big deviation.
I know.
Is it a deviation? Wasn't it a catch basin that fed a 30-foot or 30-inch pipe discharged out toward
We got a
the road?
30-inch pipe coming in that was never accounted for.
Coming in, two in and one out, right?
Well,
And one out, yeah.
it is existing
Oh, I see what you're
on
saying.
the
Yeah.
2018 site survey, which I believe was prior to the demolition of the
After,
Oh, that was after.
yeah.
Does that come off, does the 30-inch come off of the galley?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah, I
either.
don't know either.
That's the,
Does the 30-inch inlet pipe to the new manhole, does that come off of the,
You're saying instead of the 24-inch?
I don't know, is it instead of the 24? That's the question.
That, I don't know. But I think, I want to say that the 30-inch pipe discharge point was always there.
Yeah, so that's original
It's
to
original
the
to
high
the-
school.
Yeah.
And I believe what happened was with the construction of the athletic field, the galley system was tied in and discharges to that 30-inch outfall. But the project where we're seeking partial COC for is just the two drainage structures upland of the outfall.
Oh.
So just,
yeah.
Are we getting a as-built or something for the full stormwater
Yes.
systems? That's coming?
That's coming
All right,
after
I'm not
the
gonna
Fields project.
beat this
So,
poor woman to death because
um,
something she didn't do, so I'm all set.
Yeah, it's,
It was confusing enough for me to look through all the.
Yeah, well, somebody, they came in
Drawings
and they
of
built it,
record.
and they didn't build it anywhere according to plan, and we have no ability to know what's in the ground right now, so that's just not exciting.
yeah, and I would, I would agree with that. I mean, on one set of plans, it identifies the large inlet pipe to be 24 inches, and then on another set of plans, it identifies it to be a 30-inch.
Well, no, there's another structure not shown on this drawing because it's outside of our work area. But there's another structure upland of that 30-inch pipe coming into the drainage access manhole. And that there's another 24-inch line coming in, and that's coming, all of that is coming from the parking area.
And just, we're issuing a certificate of compliance, but compliance to what
Yeah.
at this point?
Yeah, I mean,
we're going to be really specific about what we're
Yeah,
certifying.
I think that we should really limit it to everything downstream of that catch basin manhole, because that's really all that we have information on that was CCTV'd.
yeah, that's the area of work, and that's all the area that's known pretty precisely on this. So, Amy.
This isn't the forum for this one, but we got a problem here.
we knew that. We wanted to, what we wanted to do was to avoid the precedent of having two orders open on the same parcel at the same time. Therefore, working with the town and getting concessions with, follow-up design work, we're doing this to, on a limited basis, in a very limited basis for this project, to give them compliance with existing conditions, as-built conditions, so that they can do their work and not be open on two orders at the same time. I think this, well, let's continue down the line. David, anything?
Nope.
Matt?
No questions, thank you.
No? Okay. I think the limit of work is on that 30-inch pipe, that 30-inch discharge pipe down toward Kachikwick Brook. Our PCOC, as Marissa had suggested, probably should limit the scope of that PCOC to just that area from the new manhole down to, through the repaired area and including that 30-inch discharge pipe. So, okay, first order of business is the PCOC. Is there any more questions from the commission? Any abutters like to be heard? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance for 242-1045.
Because I'm gonna have to be really,
is the limit of work, can you bring up the plan? Can we review
Yeah.
where the limit of work is
Yep.
shown?
so this outlines the limit of work.
Yeah, we can't issue that.
So,
Is there a name to this structure? Is it labeled?
It is on some plans, but not. We are calling it access drain manhole. It doesn't have a numbering.
On which plans we can reference it?
If you zoom out, it should be referenced in the existing conditions, call out, Amy. It should be on both. If you just zoom in a little bit and then to the it's in gray, so it's a little difficult to see.
Oh, is it just off screen?
Yep, on the top
Yeah.
left, and it says
Access
access drain
drain
manhole.
this one,
So partial certificate of compliance for access drain manhole and 30-inch pipe downstream to limit of work as shown on sheet C-1.
Good motion.
It's a long one.
I need a second. Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous. Good job.
Thank you for your explanation. That was a tricky one.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is 242, notice of intent, 242-1911 Osgood Street and Great Pond Road intersection improvement, North Andover DPW. Continued from June 25th.
Alrighty, Commission will recall that this project involves geometric modifications to the intersection at Route 125 and Great Pond Road. Proposed new sidewalks and crosswalks, new curbing, granite and Cape Cod, utility and traffic signal adjustments, pavement, milling and overlay, some full depth, signage and stormwater management facilities. Some work will be in the 25-foot no disturb zone and the 50-foot no build zone, but most of these areas are already disturbed with existing pavement and other roadway appurtenances. The project has undergone a third-party peer review for stormwater. I've provided you all of those response materials and final letter from Horsley Witten. The project did go through watershed special permit process with the planning board. They issued an approval decision on July 1st. Horsley Witten suggested some special conditions in their final letter, which I pulled out for you to review, and I did incorporate into a draft order if that's, these are already in the planning board's decision as well, so. The project team is here this evening. I'll let them introduce themselves and then we can take questions.
Director Greg Hockmuth from Epsilon Associates. With me tonight is Maggie Larissy, Project Civil from Langen, and Drew Talkoff from Vanass, Traffic Engineer. We were last before the Commission to talk about the project in late April, and at that time the Commission engaged a peer review consultant and wanted us to at least touch base with the Planning Board to make sure there weren't going to be any substantial changes to the plan before the Commission was ready to act. We're prepared to go through the project tonight if you'd like us to, or if you'd like us to focus on certain sections of the project, we're happy to do that too, whatever you prefer.
How about just a brief overview of the activities, the proposed activities, and then any comments that you might have on the stormwater peer review
Sure.
that Langen did.
So the main purpose of the project is to improve pedestrian access at this intersection. Everybody knows where this is. It's near Butcher Boy. It's pretty hectic. So that's the main goal, and also to provide safe access down to the new boat ramp area. Lake Chickawick is very well protected in town. This project is very close to the lake, which is why we did have to go to the Planning Board for a watershed special permit. But as part of the project, there will be new sidewalks. So there is going to be a slight increase in impervious surface, but there's going to be about 3,900 square foot less pavement actually being driven on. There's more impervious because we're putting in more sidewalks. So it's going to be more foot traffic. Signalized crosswalks on all approaches to the signal, some utility system adjustments, drainage system modifications. The goal was to improve drainage where we could. New signage, pavement markings, pavement milling and overlay, and the elimination of that slip lane that you can see there with the dots. That's over near the ice cream shop. That's going away. That'll be loamed and seeded. There'll be a new driveway entrance to that parking lot. And then there'll be a new slip lane or a modified slip lane on the top right of the plan as you turn towards Butcher Boy. We are in the no disturb zone, so we did request a waiver, as well as the no build zone with some of the pavement and some of the sidewalks. But the good news is where the guardrails are now, new guardrails are going in generally the same location. In a couple spots, it's slightly closer to the wetlands. And the first question I had was, how can you do that? And the answer is, we're moving Great Pond Road a little bit further from the lake. So that's how we're getting further down in that location, because the sidewalk will be on the lakeside to get down to the boat ramp. And up near the, between, I think it's Commerce Way and, is it Casablanca? There's a new sidewalk going in there. As you get closer to the car wash, we're slightly closer to the wetland resource areas, but you can see the no disturb and no build actually start veering away. But it's very, very busy plan, but limit of work-wise, impervious surface-wise, and guardrail-wise, we're really not any closer to the wetlands in that location. The median is getting striped differently, so that's allowing the road to be not necessarily shifted further away, but allows us to put a sidewalk in and just adjust the striping. Across the street in that lawn area in front of the bank, we're proposing to put in a bioretention area. We were able to do that because the right-of-way creeps away from the paved surface, so I think, is it DOT that owns that or the town? DOT owns that, so we could actually work in that area. But not a ton of drainage improvements that we can do, but everywhere we are adjusting catch basins, we're making sure they all have hoods and, so making improvements where we can. There's no new outfalls. We are moving some of the catch basins slightly, but all the discharge points are staying in the same location. These guys can get in the weeds with the drainage design if you want. I know we've got some engineers in the commission here. But that was the goal, was to not get any closer to the wetlands, because we know waivers are not granted easily in town. But I think we have some really good reasons why we requested the waiver, and I can say that we've done everything we can to get as far away from the wetlands as possible.
Any, just one question before you go on, and it has to do with stormwater. It seems like, and this is to kind of go consistent with your proposal, Greg, was your presentation, that is, that not much of the stormwater management is changing on this. And so, is most of the facilities, are they going to be reused, or is they going to be, are you going to be replacing any pipes or anything like that?
No. There will be no pipes replaced. It's mostly that we're replacing some of the catch basins and making them deep sump with hoods, but most of the pipes are remaining as they are especially within the Mass DOT right away. There wasn't much, they don't, Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't allow water quality units within the right of way, so we couldn't, that was as much as we were kind of allowed to do. And the bioretention area does reduce the peak flow going towards the wetland to Plan North there, and it does recharge. So we are, where no stormwater treatment exists, we are making it, improving it in that location.
And and we're not replacing any pipes for the sake of replacing existing pipes. We are adding some pipes where we need to. If we, with the road gutter line shifted and we added a catch basin or modified a structure and we had to tie it in to an existing structure, we put in like a short pipe.
Sure. For practicality reasons. I know this area is, it might be a mishmash of new facilities and older facilities, so you might run into that as part of the project. So just forewarning, any changes that would require, unearthing a rotted pipe, that's a modification that you need to come to the office and make sure that you loop us in and help us work together to make sure that's done right. Okay. I'll go to the commission now. Marissa, any questions?
I have a question on the bioretention. That's, the town is maintaining that?
So it's within the Mass DOT right away. So one of the comments from Horsley Witten was, that the town requires those to be vegetated and maintained, but since it's within Mass DOT, they're maintaining it as needed. So because of limited resources, so they will be maintaining it.
Yeah.
And that's why you decided just on the seed mix, so it's
Yes.
mowing and not worrying about shrubs living and all that. So,
They'll maintain it.
Yep.
And I will say that spot is very exposed, so I think unless there was some irrigation, anything planted there would really struggle to get acclimated. So a seed mix may actually be appropriate.
Yeah, I guess I would I think it was a suggested condition too. I would just request that we get the O&M, a copy of the O&M.
Part of my,
Say that again, I'm sorry.
A copy of the operation and maintenance.
Should go to DOT, is that what you mean?
No, should go to the conservation.
Oh, we have it.
Okay.
We'll end
Yeah.
up policing it,
Yeah.
or we'll end up
No, we do.
requesting that they come out.
Yeah, it's part of
Yeah.
the stormwater report.
Okay.
Brad?
we had mostly drilled this one down to just wanting the stormwater review, right, previously? Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm all set.
David?
I guess sort of somewhat similar to Marissa's. I'm just curious with the, I think you called it a slip lane. I'm one of the non-engineers on the commission. And talking about plantings, is there an opportunity to do something more substantial than just loam and seed in that spot, or is it kind of under the same restrictions?
I think that's going to be consistent with the adjacent area, so I think that's all generally grassed.
Okay.
So, yeah, for that
Okay.
purpose, we sort of just kept with that.
Yeah, in fact, some of the islands that you see that surround the paved surfaces, those are gonna be concrete, just because plantings just wouldn't.
Wouldn't make it, well, that's why I was asking specifically about that spot, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And then just for frame of reference, do we also have an NOI for Great Pond Road from DOT? Am I remembering that right? Didn't we have a whole conversation about adding a sidewalk like the length of, or am I making that up?
I think we had one a year and a half ago.
So in 2020, in front of the airport property,
Yeah.
there's a new sidewalk there that was
Yeah,
permitted.
that wouldn't have, oh, see? Fuzzy memory. Never mind. Withdrawn.
I'm all set, thank you.
So, just some notes, when Greg and I and Alexis went out just to look at the wetland line, we did notice, especially along the lake side of Great Pond Road, there's quite a shelf of built-up sediment, sand, debris. I mean, it's like a shelf, like you'll have the roadway surface, and it's an unnatural shelf of just like years of accumulation. So that's gonna have to go. So I added a condition in there that that stuff needs to be taken off site, excavated out and taken away, because I'm sure it's full of crappy stuff that we don't want right next to the lake. So I don't want them to, take it and whip it into the woods.
We have a specific,
You know.
we have a specific path, like flag 7 to flag 35?
I'd have to probably go back out there and identify it, but maybe at the pre-construction,
I
we
think we'll
can,
do that
we
later
can look at
tonight.
that.
It's really from the end of that slip lane that's being removed, all the way down to the boat ramp. It's the
Yeah.
entire length. It's
Yeah,
just,
it's
as
just-
Amy pointed out, it's years of plow, waste,
Yeah.
and we both agreed that it wouldn't be suitable fill to be used elsewhere
Yeah, no,
on the project.
so,
Hold off site and dispose.
yep,
So that'd be a good condition. Pre-construction, right?
yep.
Okay, so are there any abutters, anyone wish to comment on the DPW project? None answer. So for an NOI, I'm looking for a motion to close.
We need first a motion to grant the waiver request, right?
True,
So-
yes.
So moved.
Motion and a second to grant the waiver request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. And another motion, is your recommendation to close, Amy?
Yeah, I have a decision ready tonight.
So I need a motion on that.
Motion to close 2421911.
With the special conditions, we gotta say that.
Well, we'll vote on
closing
the order
Oh,
later.
right. Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? There being none of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, back to the high school. We've got the notice of intent for the project we just discussed about replacing a catch basin with a manhole, replacing a section of pipe, and not much more, actually. So, Amy,
Yep.
if you could just give us a brief introduction, we
Yep.
can get back to it.
Alrighty. Proposed project involves replacement of a damaged 8-foot section of a 30-inch corrugated metal pipe and lining the remaining 62 feet downstream section of that same pipe, which is located at the southwest corner of the athletic fields. The pipe is experiencing corrosion and damage and has caused a sinkhole in the corner of the turf field. And as Jamie had previously mentioned, they did do some camera inspections. They'll do some more as part of the project. They'll do removal and plug of the supporting and support of an existing 8-inch sewer pipe above the damaged CMP. They're gonna have to figure out if that's abandoned or not. They don't know. I think the thought was it was supposed to have been abandoned, but Who knows? They'll find out. And once that's plugged, the damaged 8-foot section will be removed and replaced. Backfilled. The pipe liner insert and inflate a fiberglass reinforced liner into the existing pipe segment from the access manhole down to the outfall. Cure in place with ultraviolet light, and a winch will be used to pull the liner through the pipe. Restoration, they're stating that all areas will be restored in kind. Dewatering is a possibility, and the narrative states the use of a dewatering bag to be surrounded by filter sock. Work is located within the buffer zone, the riverfront to Kachikwick Brook, and boarding land subject to flooding, although no fill is proposed in the floodplain. It's just physical work that is being done to get to the end of the pipe. Waiver request has been submitted with alternatives analysis. And I guess I can hand it over to Jamie with Apex to fill in the gaps.
Thanks. So as Amy mentioned, as part of the work, because there was a sinkhole observed in the southwest corner of the Walsh Athletic Fields, it led us to going out there and doing a CCTV inspection, identifying where the observed damage was occurring, which was caused potentially just from the corrosion from the corrugated metal pipe. So the proposed work will be replacing an 8-foot section of where the damage was directly observed. And then I just wanted to clarify that the entirety of that 30-inch pipe will be UV lined from the access manhole to the outfall, which is where we see our impacts starting in the flood zone. It's approximately 45 square feet, and this is due to foot traffic, to just pulling the liner, pulling the liner through the pipe, as well as, cutting the liner at the end of the pipe to complete that work. And then in the immediate the immediate work site, there will be open cut excavation within the 100-foot buffer zone and the 200-foot buffer zone, which is approximately 2,500 square feet. And the open cut will include excavation, potentially either supporting the sewer that runs perpendicular to the 30-inch drainage pipe, or if we find out that it's been abandoned, we would just cut the sewer and plug either side so that we could access the drainage pipe that's below the sewer, and that will be about 15 feet below grade. So it is a pretty good cut, which is why we've left plenty of room to excavate down and access that drainage manhole, and then replacing it and restoring in kind. So some specific restoration needs for this area would be replacing the turf field in kind. We'll have to remove some of the chain link fence, so that will get restored and replaced, as well as, due to the open cut excavation, the Mills to Hills Trail that's adjacent to the athletic field may need some restoration due to just construction access and maybe a little bit of encroachment from that open cut excavation to the immediate 8-foot section that's being replaced. And we are requesting a waiver for the work, but the work within the 25-foot zone is all temporary due to foot traffic and access for the UV liner contractor. And then we are proposing erosion controls, so filter sock, for protection for within the work zone.
Okay. We'll go to the commission. Marissa, any questions?
Yeah, so when was this, do we know when this pipe was installed? It wasn't part of like the recent project, right? It's been there
No,
for
it
years.
was original to the high school
Okay.
construction, the original high school building.
Early 2000s, probably 2004.
Do,
Very, very first building that was ever a high school.
Yeah,
That's what they mean.
Oh.
okay, all right. 'Cause I was gonna
not
say
part
for-
of the demolition and then the athletic field.
all right. 'Cause if it was early 2000s, a pipe shouldn't corrode like that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
there'd be,
So this is original from the very first
Okay.
high school
Okay.
building ever.
1973,
Yeah.
75,
sense.
thereabouts.
and the CCTV stopped at that drain manhole, so we don't have any information like, I guess I'm just wondering kind of if we find out that those two pipes are actually discharging. You have a 15, a 30, and a 24 potentially, or 12, a 24 to a 12 discharging to a 30, so that's severely undersized, so kind of by lining it, it's gonna temporarily fix it, but not long-term.
So as part of our alternative analysis, we did not evaluate the entirety of the stormwater system. Our scope of work was to look at and come up with solutions to repair the immediate damage. So I can't speak more to how the existing stormwater infrastructure was designed. So I don't not disagree with you, but I'm not. My scope of work is focused on the repair.
No, I understand that makes sense. I just, and I think this is a good solution to repair it temporarily. I just would hate to see it be repaired and then find out all this water's discharging and that's what's causing some of the.
UV liner is very strong, and it is the most durable of the alternatives that we came up with, in lieu of doing, a complete open cut and replacing the entirety of the 30-inch corrugated metal pipe segment. So I'm not a UV liner expert, but I would say that I'm confident that this would last a long time.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool thing to watch actually be
Yeah.
installed, and it is a good product. It's just if the pipe's undersized, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I don't know.
I would think if the pipe was undersized, that backflow and surcharge would be a higher concern than the structural integrity of the new UV lined pipe.
Would that have exhibited itself? If it's an undersized pipe, would we have already seen problems upstream from it? I mean, I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
not.
There's drainage on top of drainage,
Yeah,
and so
that's
it's
true.
kind of.
We would have seen a surcharge probably from that last manhole converting.
Yeah.
During larger events. but
Yeah.
Who's down there staring at it during a 10-year event?
True.
Okay. Fred?
For my money, I'd want to see a full pipe replacement, but I understand I'm not playing with my money here.
Go watch it get installed.
Oh, I've seen it, it's a good school.
That was one of the alternatives too.
Yeah,
Was
I saw it was on your alternatives analysis. I have a hard time believing that all this is still cheaper than a full replacement, but I guess we do have to factor in the,
less impacts.
yeah.
Excavation, all that.
But no other questions. I'm good.
David?
I'm all set, thank you.
I do have some questions. This is 15 feet down, so there's going to be quite a bit of excavation, soils to be excavated. And are you planning to contain it within the erosion control area you've identified?
So we would work with the contractor, but I do see an opportunity for the contractor to use, there's a existing emergency access gate from, that's Chickering Road, I believe. There is a little bit of a drop off, so how the contractor, what equipment they're using would have to be available to travel that slope. So there's opportunity there for them to excavate the soil and then store outside of the buffer zone.
Store it off-site or elsewhere on-site?
If there's opportunity to store it on site, that would be the preference.
So we don't quite have a plan for that yet.
We would work where we would need to work with a contractor to develop a more definitive plan
Okay.
for the stockpiling of material. But our goal would be to limit it from being stored within the buffer zones.
Is this planned to be done this summer?
It is,
Okay.
yes.
This is something to watch, because that's a lot of soil to be excavated, and this is a very sensitive area, as we all know, a river in town. So we should make sure that plan is solid and it can work, and we don't know what it is now. So let's keep in touch. Please communicate with Amy on that to get it.
Yeah, I suspect they're going to be pretty uptight about putting any soil on top of the turf field.
Yeah.
Oh,
So they're
yeah.
going to have to move it off. And if you see the drop off, so here's the gate that they're going to come
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
They're going to have to build some sort of a ramp to get their excavator up. They're going to have to put fill there. There's no way that it's too sharp.
The other option we would explore is utilizing some type of cover system over the turf field for the contractor to have access in and out from, I believe it's Wayne or the driveway, Wayne Street or driveway,
The existing gravel parking lot.
near the
where-
shed.
Yeah, okay.
Which I'm not, I mean,
Oh.
but you wouldn't drive over the field, right? So you would have to manage that narrow path, which I'm not psyched about.
Well, there's a pinch point along the path, so there would be difficulty should the contractor use the Mills to Hills trail as construction access. So that's why on the plans, we suggest in the sequencing that the contractor either, use a cover system to navigate on the turf field and to protect it,
Yeah.
or utilizing the emergency access gate off of Chickering Road.
That's a big TBD, but let's get out in front of this, because that's a potential to be a disaster if not managed correctly. Doing it in the dry season is a great approach. Let's do it right, though. My last question is the 8-inch sewage pipe. How are you going to find out if that's in service or not?
So we will CCTV from the sewer manhole that's
Over here.
along the Mills to Hills Trail. The reason why we weren't able to CCTV it originally during our inspection in October 2024 is because it is directly underneath the chain link fence. So will need to remove the portion of the chain link fence in order to access the sewer
Okay.
manhole and then
Okay.
CCTV that section.
Okay,
Um,
I got it.
and, yeah.
All right, thanks, that's good. Okay, what do we need? What more do we need from these guys?
I guess I'm just a little concerned. I don't want to give the contractor such a long leash in terms of access points. If he were to go up through the existing gravel drive off of Wayne Street, I want him to get onto the field and not use Mills to Hills Trail. It's just, I don't,
It's
I
not
mean,
practical.
it's not practical from a protection standpoint. I just think there's too much, it's too vulnerable to that type of equipment. So you know, off of Chickering makes a lot of sense. Just, I mean, I'm sure he can build a dirt ramp and get up there. It's not a big deal, right? So that's my first choice. And then the gravel drive, but getting onto the field ASAP.
So these are pretty simple, I mean, these are pretty common requests we have. Number one is construction access. You need to include that as part of the plan. Okay.
We have included it as part of the plan if you zoom out. It's just potential construction access to final determination to be determined by contractor and engineer. And we outline it in the general notes sheet as well, that should the contractor seek access from the driveway, that a cover system should be put in place in order to protect the turf athletic field. We didn't explore utilizing the Mills to Hills Trail, not only because it is closer to the resource area, but also because along the trail there's a pinch point where the trail narrows, I believe, from about 8 feet wide to 6 feet wide, which is pretty limiting for construction equipment. Where there's a guardrail section, you can see the pinch point right off of the screen where it starts. So in our suggested sequence of work, those were the two construction access points we laid out. And if you go to sheet G1, we even show a construction access plan. It's the second sheet of the plan.
Oh, okay.
So if you zoom in here on that site locus map, we show proposed equipment access either from Chickering Road or the high school driveway
Okay. But in
on the turf athletic
on
field.
the turf field. Okay.
Yeah, and then on the proposed equipment access off of Chickering Road, that would require some temporary disturbance too, right, to navigate the slope?
Yep, and that's included in the limits of work
Okay, so you have
and
that.
included in the 2,500 square foot calculation.
I think the last thing we need is another thing we need is the soil stockpile. We usually call it, identify a soil stockpile area. I think on this site, it's more of a soil management plan. Where's all that dirt gonna go?
So in the specifications we would provide for this project, we would request as part of our specifications that we would provide to the contractor, we would request a soil management plan be provided to us prior to construction, and in order to understand the contractor's plan for hauling the soil on and off site. And it would be
Okay,
up to the engineer and owner's approval.
You either have to show an area that's gonna hold all the soil that you're gonna store on site, or specify that you're gonna haul the remaining off-site. That's what we're looking for.
Okay. I haven't specified that on the plans. We're looking to work with the contractor to determine that, but we can specify that.
And with the
beforehand.
school system, because
Yeah.
I think there's other activities going on in this general vicinity, so there'll be some coordination with that. But I think the soil stockpiling, as Amy mentioned, that, you know, it's a little sensitive there on these athletic fields. They want to preserve those as best they can because they're starting back up in August.
Yeah.
So I know you need this. What's your recommendation, Amy? Do
Well,
we?
If you guys need more clarification or specification information, we could continue to the July 23rd meeting. But either way, I do not have a draft decision tonight, so I'll have to write that up for the next
Okay.
meeting, so whatever you guys
So the soonest you could get
decide.
a decision is July 23rd. I would like to see some more detail on soil management, specifics. And you know you're going to have to store some on site unless you load directly into a truck and haul right off. So you need to figure that out and tell us what you're going to do. And then it seems like the rest of it has been beat up pretty good tonight.
Just a
David?
point of clarification. I mean, have we typically in our order of conditions said no stockpiling within the 100-foot buffer? I mean, do we need the plan to show a specific spot, or do we just need to clarify that it's not being stored in the buffer zone? And that's really meant as a question, not as a,
Yeah,
Sometimes
well,
we
it's usually project-specific. If, you know, some projects have a lot of areas where you can store a large pile of loose soil. Others, like this, the question's not so easy. So I think part of their solution is probably gonna be haul off-site. And maybe that's their entire solution. But oftentimes, you'll have a soil stockpile area. You'll have a combination of both. So, why don't you firm that up, and we'll see what we can do for the next meeting.
Okay.
Question. You said this work's being done this summer?
Ideally, as soon as possible,
Okay.
yeah.
What's the duration, do you think?
So the duration is around 3 weeks. It would be a couple of days to, about a day or two to have the first order of business would be to get the liner company in to measure the pipe and be able to fabricate the custom liner, as well as replacing that 8-foot section of pipe. And then it takes about 1 to 2 weeks to customize and fabricate the liner that will go into this specific pipe segment. And then the actual construction work should only take a couple of days on either end. But there is some cleaning and measuring work to be done so that they can fabricate the liner and then the final installation of the liner.
We're most interested in the construction period.
Like the open cut excavation
Yes, right.
section. I wouldn't imagine that taking more than a couple of days within that period.
Okay, so it looks like we're talking about this one being continued till next meeting.
Public here that wants to speak.
Yeah, is there any public comment on the high school project? No, there being none. Looking for a motion.
motion to continue to, what do we say, July 23rd? Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Next up, 242-1913, 74 Sherwood Drive.
I know.
Hi, good evening. Maureen Harold from U.S. Environmental Services. These are just full-size plans for the commission. The same that was submitted in the NOI package.
Thank you.
guy just is pushing itself on these, and I don't like it.
Just call it now.
All right.
So we filed a notice of intent with the commission. We're proposing to remove a shed and some fencing, to install an in-ground swimming pool, patio, shed, fencing, buffer zone restoration, plantings, grading, and associated utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone. The commission may recall I was in front of you at the end of May because the homeowners received an enforcement order for cutting trees, where you can see the tree stumps on the plan. And it was decided to come back to the commission for the pool as well as the buffer zone restoration. So we're here to resolve the enforcement action. We're proposing to plant 15 shrubs within that area, as well as loam and seed. We do provide a stockpile soil area that's shown on the plan and is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. We comply with the commission's 25-foot no disturb, 50-foot no structure. And I can open it up to the commission with any questions or concerns.
Okay, Marissa?
What type of material is the proposed patio?
Oh, the patio's already
The,
The pool.
We
Are you gonna do pavers or concrete, or paper patio?
Not for concrete? No. It'll be like spaces in between blocks.
And then grass in between?
Well, not necessarily grass, but just not a totally impervious surface.
Not a huge slab of concrete.
Okay.
That's all for right now. Still thinking, sorry.
David? No, I'm good.
I'm good on this one.
Okay. Just for clarification, Maureen, the new plantings are going in the general vicinity of the stumps?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
And the
That-
stumps will stay.
yes,
They're not gonna be touched.
Yep. And that's your restoration plan.
yes.
Looks like you have good setbacks. The pool equipment is outside the 100-foot. Oftentimes, we require a cartridge-type filters. Do you have any idea what type filter you're going to use?
It'll be a cartridge type filter.
Cartridge type? It just limits the amount of high chlorine content going into the adjacent soil. So that's a positive. Setbacks are good. I mean, I don't see anything really prohibiting us from closing this tonight. We don't have a decision ready for tonight, so next meeting is the earliest we could move forward with this. So, yeah, any abutters wish to speak on the 74 Sherwood Drive? No, none answer.
So, just for the applicant's benefit, that, typical conditions in an order for pools is that any drawdown for either winter closure or whatever, try to direct it so that it's over land, over your lawn, and not straight down, but, and then, like I said, even though not all of the patio is in the buffer, we do like to see some pervious ability for the water to percolate through it instead of just run off.
Meaning what, infiltration trench?
Well, if it's gonna be patio blocks, then, some space in between to allow, instead of a sheet flow.
And we don't know what at this point.
Right. Well, it's likely going to be pavers, so there'll be some space between the pavers. And the majority of the patio is outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yeah.
Really, only a small section
Right.
is within it.
Right.
And it
Okay.
doesn't look like a lot of grading is needed.
No, because that area is fairly flat.
Okay, well,
Motion to close the hearing?
yeah, I'll entertain a motion. Brad
I just threw one out there.
just threw one out there,
Second.
close the hearing. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous. This is closed.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll be issuing the decision at the next meeting, and then I'll get it out to you. There's a whole bunch of pre-construction stuff, and we'll go through it. Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Notice of intent, NACC number 347 Dale Street, Palma Winter Street.
Hello. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Jack.
Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I think we should bring this in.
Okay, NOI for a single-family home. Amy?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So this property is an aggregate of 3 lots that will be combined, totaling about 3.5 acres. It's partially wooded, mowed meadow and lawn, and wetlands, and it's got an existing concrete block garage and a gravel driveway leading into the site. Wetlands consist of a 1,600 square foot isolated wetland at the frontage and a small pond with BVW at the rear. And this rear BVW and pond is noted as a potential vernal pool on the natural heritage maps. A little over half of the site is within the natural heritage estimated habitat for rare wildlife. We don't know what that wildlife is yet, so we're waiting for the comment letter from Natural Heritage to help us with that and see if they have any comments or restrictions. Let's see. So the project consists of abandoning the existing gravel drive that is right next to the isolated wetland, excavating that gravel out and loaming and replanting it because it's in the 25. The new driveway entering the site will be outside of the 50 to the west. It'll loop up and meet with the existing garage, which is going to be kept. And then the driveway will continue on to the high point of the property for the new house and its septic system. The house and the septic system are outside of all buffer zones. The house is partially inside the natural heritage zone, but basically what's within the commission's jurisdiction is the driveway, pretty much, and the restoration of the gravel drive. We did do a site visit with a subset of the commission. Jack Sullivan, the project engineer, was with us. He's here this evening. Maureen Harold was with us. She is the wetland scientist. And I will hand it over to Jack to fill in gaps.
Yep, thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
For the record, my name's Jack Sullivan. I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. I think Amy gave a good summary. I'm just going to add a few things. This project was filed just under your local bylaw. Since we're within 100 feet of the isolated wetland and there's no work proposed within 100 feet of that rear pond, we were only required to file under your local bylaw. We talked about closing off that existing gravel driveway and loaming and planting that with native plants and shrubs. When we go to construct the new paved driveway, at first, we're going to put in a temporary crushed stone construction entrance. So I noted that on the plan. So that'll be our access point to the site, and it'll provide a good pad for construction equipments to prevent any silt migration out onto Winter Street. When I met with some of the commission members on site, and as Amy stated, the house and septic system are outside the 100-foot buffer zone. The way we tried to situate this house is we tried to work with some of the existing grades. The proposed house will go at the high point on the lot. There'll be a garage under. That works with the topography on the site, and it'll limit the transitional site grading needed for this project. We had looked at putting a driveway off of Winter Street. It's a steep slope. That area would have been entirely outside the 100-foot buffer zone. But when I was out with the commission on the sidewalk, you do note that the existing garage is in really good shape. It's an asset to this site, so we look to keep that. And then that way we'll be able to retain a lot of the trees and things, even though it may not be required to because they'd be outside the 100-foot buffer zone along Winter Street. I believe the developer's going to look to retain as many trees as he can on that slope to give this house as much privacy as we can. I do show 2 soil stockpile areas on the plan. I know you like to at least see one. I showed 2. Just so we could have 2 different areas if we're stockpiling any topsoil or if we're stockpiling any other type of fill. I really don't see a need for it, but I do like to show it. As far as utilities, the proposed water service will come off Winter Street. It's entirely outside the 100-foot buffer zone. I am showing proposed underground electric cable and telephone to come off an existing pole. It's within the 100-foot buffer zone. It's outside the 50-foot buffer zone to the isolated wetland. As I stated originally, there's no work proposed within 100 feet to the rear pond, and all work is outside of the 50-foot buffer zone to the isolated wetland at the front of the site, excluding the planting improvements we talked about where the existing gravel driveway would be. As far as the proposed driveway, it's basically a 1% slope. It's to access the driveway, so it's not steep in nature. Well, I did do soil testing witnessed by the health department. For the septic system, we had good soils under 10 minutes per inch perk rate with no indication of a high groundwater table down to 10 feet where we did the testing, so it's a well-drained site. The septic plans are currently under review by the North Andover Board of Health. Just so this commission knows as well, Amy stated it, this property is made up of 3 parcels of land. I will be submitting a A&R plan to the planning board to combine this all into one lot as you see in front of you tonight. At this point, I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions.
Thank you, Jack. Marissa, any questions?
No, I would just note that I think the driveway location is good because of the grading, and I would agree with, or I understand your reasoning, but that's a lot of impervious area, so I'd recommend adding some infiltration just so that that isolated wetland and the vernal pool are provided, the drainage characteristics are maintained.
Yep, and Amy actually brought that up on the site walk as well, and I'm open to, I'd like to do something low impact, like a crushed stone drip trench, but I can provide a detail. I can super elevate the driveway to pitch it to one side and have that crushed stone trench.
Yeah, I think something like that would work. I would just, I'd ask you to just kind of look at the existing grades and see if it's pitched more towards that isolated wetland or towards the back of the site, and kind of just mimic that.
Okay.
What is the total area of new impervious?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I always do that. What is the total area of new impervious we got going in with this? Do we know?
Within the 100-foot buffer or the site in general?
The site in general.
I don't have that calculation. I can have that for you at the next meeting. We're not going to be able to close tonight because we don't have the Heritage Group's comments anyways, so I can get back to the commission with that. I could do a summary table, existing versus proposed.
So my only other question is along Winter Street. I assume it's a country drainage. We don't have curb in that area.
There's no curbing.
There's no curb. So I would want to make sure that we're not affecting any flow that's coming down Winter Street with our new driveway. If we need to do a section that gives us a low spot that's off the road, what I don't want to do is push the drainage for that section onto the roadway and then back down again.
Right. Which I'm not. I'll clarify that a little bit better, but I have off the driveway apron, water will come back to the lot, and then you can see this, the rest of the driveway is draining down. It was gonna go to a low point and then off. I'll add some crushed stone there, but it won't be
Great.
going back onto Winter Street.
Yeah, if you could just clarify that, that would be great.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Okay, David?
I'm good. I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. Jack, I might have misheard one of the times. Did you say, like a minute ago, that Board of Health it has not cleared approval by Board of Health yet?
Correct.
Okay. So we typically wouldn't close anyway until Board of Health was done.
Right.
And my only comment is outside the 100-foot, but it's, I think, a practical one for the site. And you're probably dealing with Board of Health anyway. Is there going to be erosion control for that leaching field? Because there seems to be, well, anyway, you know what it is.
I'm gonna add some. Due to that steep slope, even though we're outside the 100-foot buffer, I'll add a limited work line, and I'll show some erosion control on that hill. Because the last thing we want, it could be outside the 100, but we don't want, if they dig the foundation and then we have a big rainstorm, I don't need stuff washing to Winter Street. So, and just so the commission knows, the same day I submitted to Concom with this NOI, I submitted to the health department. So
Okay.
typically they're pretty quick at a review. Usually there's a few comments for me to address on their end, but it should time out pretty well to
Do
your next
they
meeting.
ever require erosion control on their projects? Board of Health?
Typically not, no,
Oh, okay.
no.
I think it's just a good idea. I'd suggest it'd be a good addition to the project, but that's up to you guys, because it's beyond the 100-foot for us, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think I also said maybe tightening up the erosion control closer to the
Grading line?
proposed grading line, yeah, just so it's clear that that's the limit, so they don't
Yeah.
creep closer than they need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need a few things. We need natural heritage, we need Board of Health approval, and it sounds like there's some enhancements to the driveway, details, and possibly erosion control to be added in the vicinity of the leach field. Are there, do any abutters want to hear on this project? Yes. Hi.
Sarah Tanaki, 427 Victor Street. So I've been following this project along since last year when they were proposing to build 3 properties on these 3 lots. So I'm happy to see one house being built on this space. But I also learned too, so I am a couple properties away, but I'm in the 100-year flood zone. So that is the entire backside of this property, and it does actually abut to one of the pieces of land directly next to the lot is also within the 100-year flood zone. And several of the abutter properties are also in the flood zone. So I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 properties that are within the abutting properties are within the 100-year flood zone. So that's my biggest concern is the water. Where it's going to go, as of now, the area where the gravel driveway is floods every major rainstorm. I submitted photos last year to the Zoning Board of Appeals because it's essentially like a small river in that space. And the water actually drains outside Winter Street. There's, I believe, the DPW actually was just there a couple of months ago, and they called it a catch basin. I'm not familiar with all of the terminology, but so there's 2 catch basins that are connected, and then they drain across the street into the large wetlands that's not shown on this map. And they actually just did work, which I had submitted to, I reached out to DPW to say, what was this, what was done? Because they just added a ton of erosion control to that catch basin, which I believe might have been clogged. So I'm not sure what they did for that, but that was what they told me. They said they installed stone at the outlet pipe for erosion purposes. And they said that infrastructure is not new and has been there for well over 20 years. So that's what they had said for that one. I wanted to ask, and I know you can't necessarily answer questions, but I don't see the buffer zone for the property, I mean, for the land across the street. I don't know if that's also notated within the front of the plan.
You mean how the buffer zone projects across the street?
Well, because there's wetlands across the street as well. Like directly across the street
Okay.
is all wetlands. So the property, like where the current gravel driveway is and the culvert that goes across the street, it drains into the wetlands there, loops around, and then comes back under Winter Street next to my property, which is the tributary to the Mosquito Brook. So that's where all the water travels. So my concern now with the larger house, extremely large driveway, is all this water is going to go somewhere, which will be right next to my house. So, or if it's not going across the street, if it's being diverted back, then it's going to the pool or the pond in the back. So those are some of my concerns. Just want to make sure. The other issues that I was considering all somewhat relate to water is snow removal for that extremely long driveway. Where will it go and where will it drain when it's melting? So I know like that's an issue with a lot of places. So if it's, you know, salted or stockpiled if they're plowing it, definitely something that needs to be considered. And then the utility lines that are going through the front of the property where the large hill is, I wanted to find out how that would be excavated. Like, is it going to be, because it seems like it's almost like a small rocky ledge area. I'm not sure what the materials are, but if they're going to be digging and installing underground utilities, what will that do to their surrounding landscape? I know if it is outside the buffer zone, these are all maybe not issues for conservation, but perhaps something else. But they all essentially relate back to the water flow going into the wetlands that are on the other side, and I don't think that's noted on the plans.
No, it's not. And I
So it's perhaps that front part of the far right of the property, I believe would be partially in some of the buffer zone. So, I'm not sure. It might be 20. I don't know if it's, like, I'm not a good measure.
Yeah, no, it might be hundreds of feet.
I don't know if the measurements are.
Check it out.
And, yeah, I am happy to see that the updated zoning flood map that came out yesterday removed my house from it. So my property is still in the flood zone, but my house is not. So now I might actually be able to get rid of the flood insurance. But the water is an issue. And I know other things as I've been researching this too, some things that I've learned is you may not think of the impacts right now, but you think of it down the line. And just looking at this property in general, there's actually a lot. The Cashman property has been divided up many times over the years. And so a lot of other cases, I guess, I don't know what you call it, came up, including the Bear Hill development. And back when that was developed, which I believe maybe was in the 80s, many of the abutters complained about flooding and what it would do to their properties on Dale Street, where my mother grew up, actually. The house is right on Dale Street. That swampland that's behind it did not exist back then. So I'm sure part of that is responsibly, from the runoff from Bear Hill development. So that's just any further development within the wetland areas. It just has a very big domino effect.
Okay, let me recap and tell me if I'm missing anything. Recap, your main points. It seems like water the stormwater on Winter Street is a major concern overtopping sections, on the country drainage on Winter Street seems to be a concern. Flooding into the parcel and possibly down the street seems to be concerns. You've got snow storage concerns in terms of where the snow plow might push the snow and where that might be stockpiled in a logical way. And then the utility installations, from Winter Street up to the proposed house. Did I miss anything?
And wetland across the street.
Yeah, the
Potential
wetlands
wetland
across
across the street. that
Yeah.
might Project buffer zone onto this property.
Onto this property?
So it might not be, it's not on this property because it's across the street, but it's the entire, it's actually part of the flood zone too, one of
Yeah.
those properties. The house directly across the street, their land goes towards the output area where those culverts are draining, and that's part of the 100-year flood zone as well.
Okay, Jack, do you have any comments that?
Yeah, just a few that I think will make you happy. As far as the underground utilities coming in off of Winter Street, they're all underground. There will have to be excavation there, so there may be some trees removed to get those utilities in place. The good news is, when we did the soil testing, at least at the top of the hill, we excavated down 10 feet. There was no signs of ledge or rock. So this isn't a case where we're just on a big knob of ledge and we're gonna disturb it. I think we have good soil, so we don't anticipate any rock removal or anything like that. It should be straightforward. As far as the comment about wetlands across the street, I didn't notice any. We'll take another
I
look.
know, I didn't
You might
either.
wanna
I
take
didn't
a walk
either.
by or drive by.
Yeah, I was
See
out-
actually the entire area.
Yeah, I was out there with the commission and we were all out there and we didn't notice it.
Yeah.
If you pull it up on the map, it's all.
But
definitely-
I'll take a look. I'll take a look at it. But when we were out there, it seemed like a developed property across the street
Well,
that,
that's on the side where the driveway's going, but
Okay.
you're saying, I know it said, I think, I need my reading glasses, but I think it was a very large street frontage.
Okay.
So the part that's right up to where that 100-foot buffer zone is, like that whole area, and then the property to the, well, I'm looking at the map, the Robinsons' property right next to it, that directly across the street from them, and then essentially where that septic tank is going is directly facing the wetlands across the street
okay.
in the 100-year flood zone. and-
I'll take a look at that.
and there is even a pool, because it's the other side of the, I forget the name of the farm that's there, but there's a pond back there as well. so.
Okay, we'll
And
take,
all of those essentially drain into my property.
we'll take a look. And as far as snow plowing, yeah, it's gonna take place, but like I said, all our work is outside of 50 feet from a wetland. Usually, when you stockpile snow, you wanna do it over a pervious surface, like a grass, a landscaped area, so that when the spring comes and the snow melts, it's able to infiltrate back into the ground. And like I stated before, the soils we encountered were very well drained on this site, so that's actually good. So, yeah, they will be plowing snow, but the way they'd be stockpiling snow is well outside the wetland areas and areas that you'd want to stockpile snow. And the concern with the flooding of the existing gravel driveway, as I talked to originally my client wanted to pave that and come in there. I said, no, the town doesn't like driveways within 25 feet of a wetland. As we stated, we're gonna reloam and plant that area, so that'll go away, and we're gonna have a good grading plan on the proposed driveway and not push water to Winter Street.
Yeah, the little wetland area is, I believe, where one of the outputs is. If you were to walk on Winter Street, you would see like the sewer grate, and I believe it connects across the street to the other side where the erosion control was installed by DPW. And you would see it because it's a little overgrown now, but
Yeah.
Jack, is where my cursor is that a catch basin or?
That's a
is that-
catch basin.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit up. Okay,
So, so that's that, and then the other one would be further to the
down.
right, but I don't think it's
I don't think it's
shown.
on here.
Or maybe that, I don't think it's shown on there. And I don't know what a catch basin is.
We,
It's like a sewer.
we also, to add to Jack's comments on the snow stockpiling, we typically require that to be outside of the 50-foot, well, actually, the 25-foot no disturb zone, but as far as we can. So we prefer outside the 50 in an impervious, in a pervious area where it can percolate down in. So I think identifying some areas that make sense for that would be an easy addition to the
Yeah,
plan.
I can show some snow stockpile areas on the plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good input. Okay, so, well, we need to,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I believe that one of my neighbors also submitted a letter, so I don't know if that was shared
I gave
with
it
the
to him.
committee. Okay.
Yep. I
we
did.
have it in the file. We do have a waiver request to remove the gravel driveway and restore that to natural conditions as proposed as part of this project, so I believe we need to vote on that first. Motion to approve the waiver request. And a second. Any more discussion? Being none of those in favor, say aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous. And I believe we're asking for, the applicant's asking for a motion to continue.
Correct.
So I'll entertain a motion to continue.
To 7:23. Is that enough time?
When's the next meeting?
July 23rd?
2 weeks.
That should be enough time. If for some reason we
Oh, we'll
don't hear from
continue.
National Heritage, I'll ask to continue.
But they have 30 days, and I thought we,
Yeah.
didn't we talk about that on site?
Yeah.
That we had enough time?
Yeah. But, Maureen's got to get back out there to see,
Yeah,
flag any wetlands that might
okay, so
project. But
motion,
we'll just do the 23rd and see what happens.
Okay, that works.
motion and a second to continue to the 23rd of July. Any more discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself on this next one.
Okay.
Just sit in the timeout chair.
You got that, Jamie? Okay, enforcement order violation, 20 Nutmeg Lane.
Okay, this is just a follow-up. We gave them until the end of June to do a restoration for the 25-foot no disturb zone. They have pretty much done everything. The only outstanding issue is the seed mix that the landscape contractor used. It's not exactly what, it's not exactly native. It's stabilized, but, so I have asked that they actually get a proper seed mix for that shady area that is native from either New England wetland plants or Ernst or whatever. And I'm gonna recommend that they, it's called strip seeding, so instead of like digging up everything that's there, we'll do a grid pattern of scraping out some of the existing grasses to expose dirt and then seed those areas, so, and then it'll just infiltrate. So, and then from there, the wetland scientist will monitor for 2 years. The driveway drainage was placed subsurface, which I approved and passed it by the chair, and he was fine with it. It makes a lot more sense, and it was all by hand, so it's just a little stone dry well that goes into, that has experienced some good rainstorms, and we don't see any breakout or anything like that, so. So no action for you guys tonight, just an update as to where we're at, so. But they're addressing it.
Okay. Take no action.
Right.
All right, next up, 80 Chestnut Street.
80 Chestnut Street, so, we gave them to the end of June to do plantings, but they also had to do a lot of cleanup of the existing wetland. There was trash, debris, leftover chain link fencing and the posts in the wetlands, so that all got removed. There was a whole bunch of chipped wood chips in the 25 that need to get removed. They did all of that work. I met with the general contractor and the landscape contractor in very early June, and we went over the planting plan. The landscaper was actively trying to source plants, and come to find out that most nurseries were weeks out for stock. At that point, we were getting really hot, dry weather, and the wetland specialist felt that the need to ask for an extension to the planting deadline, and I suggest middle of September, just because we don't want to be putting plants in the middle of summer. They won't last. So she provided an opinion and a request in her memo. So, but they're addressing everything. It's just some things are out of their control for plant availability.
So they were required to complete the plantings by June 30th.
Yep.
Which was less than 2 weeks ago, and
Yep.
the reason they haven't done that is it's a tough time to plant.
Tough
right
time
now.
to plant, and the stock was low, and they
Yep.
couldn't find. So
So we need to, so you're proposing we need to extend this deadline for planting to
I would say
September
September
15th.
15th. I think that makes sense.
So moved.
Any discussion about anything on this? This was, they removed a bunch of trees, right?
Yeah.
And then now we're having them restore it
Right.
and clean it up.
Yep.
So I think it's a reasonable recommendation. So we have a motion and a second to modify the enforcement order for 80 Chestnut Street. Any more discussion? There being none, of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, and last enforcement order is the I-495 on-ramp oil spill EO follow-up.
All right, so this came out of a tractor-trailer crash over the embankment at the I-495 southbound on-ramp adjacent to the Shawsheen, and that occurred in September of 2023. Commission issued an enforcement order directing certain protective measures just to protect the wetland and the river from the actual cleanup work. Monthly status reports were provided during the cleanup, and monitoring for site stabilization was also done, and they kept me apprised of that. They prepared a final permanent solution statement, and their risk characterization is basically permanent solution has been achieved. So I just wanted to close the loop and not let this be a hanging EO out there. I ordered that erosion controls that consisted of bark mulch and 100% biodegradable netting be installed down there, and they did, and it's working, and it worked well. And I would say just leave it there and let it decompose. It's just going to turn into, soil eventually. But since it's pretty much closed out with DEP, I would recommend lifting the enforcement order.
Okay. The photos look great.
Yeah. Yeah.
They made reference to soil samples having, concentrations well below, hydrocarbon concentrations well below the Method 1 residential soil standards. Do they give us results on that, or do they just say it and?
No, I think they,
It's not in the letter here.
yeah, I think it was part of the larger report.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
and you have that?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. They did in the very beginning, and I know that they were,
Okay.
yeah.
The recommendation is to lift the enforcement order on the I-495 on-ramp oil spill. I need a motion to lift that.
Don't like discussion, do you?
Oh, discussion?
Well,
We usually do discussion after a motion.
well,
We always go through and then someone makes a motion.
these are simpler ones, and so I just give the one opportunity after the
Just your
motion.
leadership style.
Just different, yeah, just different. But anyway, yes, discussion. We can discuss before, too,
Yeah.
as you know.
I have nothing to say.
Okay, the recommendation is to lift the EO.
Motion to lift the EO for
495.
45 on-ramp.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, general business and new and old business. First point is election of Conservation Commission officers. We do this once a year at this time of year, at the beginning of the fiscal year, and I'll make the first motion to elect, my move is to elect Al Manzi as the chairman of the Conservation Commission for one more year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. And we also need a motion for vice chair.
I make a motion to nominate Jack Mabon to be vice chair for next year.
Second.
All right.
Just out of curiosity, are you currently the vice chair?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured, but just
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah, we had election of officers a few months ago. But
Yeah.
anyway, okay. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous.
We should tell Sean that he got a nomination.
Oh, yeah.
Someone likes a certain.
Yeah, definitely tell Sean he got elected chair.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't here, man.
Amy, you're gonna have to carry this one on the MACC annual dues.
Alrighty, so, annual dues to MACC for the commission is $850 for the fiscal year. There's $65 for additional staff, so that's me and Alexis, and that's $130. So that's $980 for membership. They provide subscriptions to their electronic handbook for $20 per prescription, and usually staff gets one each. And I think David and Matt have subscriptions. So we'll continue that if that's what you want. So that's 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. So another $80 unless there's any of the other members want a subscription.
You guys have it through work.
Yes,
Yeah.
you got it, okay.
So-
So you guys all set.
So the total ask is 1,000, what?
So 1,060, if I did my math right? I think
Okay,
so.
sounds close.
Yep.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve expenditures. These are budgeted expenditures.
Oh, yeah, I have it,
From fund-
it's in my regular budget, so.
for-
So, yeah, I was just gonna ask, so what are we approving? Because,
Oh, just, well, basically, who wants,
okay.
subscriptions to the
Yeah.
online thingy, and just to know that you're members again, and you get discounts on all of their workshops and conferences and blah, blah, blah.
Got it.
Yeah, and they have one in March, usually first weekend in
Yeah.
March. It's a good one, too.
Yeah,
It's in
yeah.
Worcester usually.
Right. And,
It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for the newer members, we have the fundamentals units that you guys should take, and we reimburse you.
Well, maybe I did.
No, you would know. It takes
Yeah,
a while.
you're right, I would know.
Yeah, there's like 8 units,
I was thinking of the other thing.
so.
Okay, so yeah, I need a motion to approve the expenditure of, what, $1,060? So moved, and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Excellent.
One decision. This is the town project on the intersection of 125 and Great Pond Road. Did you happen to include that condition on pre-construction condition on cleanup of that area
Yep.
between the intersection
Yep.
and the boat ramp?
Well, I have it actually during construction, because it really is going to be during construction. Condition number 48 for the shelf of junk.
Okay. Got it. Condition 33, the text in red and underlined, is that just for our, is that for our edification?
Making sure that I put the new language in there for.
Right. Good.
Let's see. Bond of 5K. Does that make sense?
5,000 for this? This, what condition do you have? 50 something, right?
38B.
I mean, there's not a whole lot we could do with $5,000 on a project this size.
I think I've asked this before, but who pays the bond?
Contractor.
Okay.
I'd recommend rewording 48, just the end of it, taken to an appropriate facility to remove from the site and disposed of in accordance with local and state laws.
Got a couple empty bullets on 38 too.
Yeah, I know. I'll fix that.
I think 25,000 is more appropriate for something like this on the bond, back to the bonding on 38.
I defer to the engineers. I defer to the engineers on that. I just threw it out there. I don't know.
I mean, the size of this project is pretty big.
But, so that's, again, I'm just trying to understand, so the town has to put this out to bid. The contractor wins the bid, we then say you have to put up a $50,000 bond because if you don't complete the project, the Conservation Commission needs to be able to, like with a public works project, isn't there, like the town's not gonna let the project be abandoned.
So it's less that it's gonna be abandoned and more that something happens and goes wrong on the project.
Okay.
And there's a dispute between the town and the contractor and just having that money available to
Okay.
fix something.
We need to stabilize them on it, finish
Okay.
a 3-year legal fight.
Yeah.
And is it usually like bonding with the town or the DPW, it's a surety as opposed to cash?
That I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's a check. We get a check and we put it in the bank and it's there readily available, so.
Okay.
And, you know, our concern would be the wetlands and maybe the town, I don't care about the wetlands so much as their infrastructure, you know what I mean? No, I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean, that's not really their top priority.
Does the planning board require a bond for this too? They do, typically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, that makes more, thank you, Mercer, for that explanation. I think what I was more trying to understand is like the distinction between like a private development versus a public works project, and I think you answered my question.
It gets weird on some of these, because it's normally like the cost to finish everything up. but
No, actually, they didn't.
5 or 25 is a drop in the bucket for the total cost of what this is gonna be.
Yeah,
If bond, you're gonna get it back, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Planning board didn't require on this one.
They
for a
didn't?
bond.
Okay. This is, I mean, we've got two wetlands, but one is our drinking
Yeah.
water reservoir.
Yep.
So that stabilization has to be expedited as needed. That's got to be expedited and pretty effective. If planning board didn't require a bond, I mean, I'd go higher than 20. I'd go 50. I would go 50,000 for this. I think the nature of the project and the proximity to Lake Chickawick is a big issue.
In theory, the town could always come back, the town, we're part of the town, but the applicant could always come back and appeal that, right? And say, we think 50 is too, like, we could set it
Yeah,
at 50
right.
and
Right.
it's not like it's take it or leave it. I mean, it is, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's going to be in the order. Whatever we choose is going to be in the order. So.
But there is a mechanism by which they could come
They
back
can
to us
appeal
and
it.
say,
Yeah.
hey, you
Yeah.
put something in the order
Yeah.
that we think is, so
Yes.
I could live with 50 at that.
Where it's the town, I think a surety bond is kind of like an insurance policy.
Yeah.
So you only have to put like
Oh, a certain percentage of it?
Yeah,
maybe
it's like-
10% down.
Yeah, I see
So
what you're
put down 5 to get 50
Yeah, yeah.
coverage. I think it's something like that.
We could require on 38L, we're requiring once a week or half inch of rain. I've seen in watershed protection areas monitoring with anything over a quarter inch of rain. That's a lot of monitoring, but if there's concern about erosion and sediment, we could up the monitoring requirements.
Quarter?
I've seen that. That it's a lot of extra monitoring.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's necessary for a paved project, but if there is concern, that's an option.
What type of projects do they go to that extent?
Watershed protection areas, like sensitive areas, but those that were previously undisturbed. So
Okay.
that's the only reason why I'm hesitant to add it to this one, because this is sort of an existing road that's.
Yeah, but there are areas that are previously undisturbed. Back behind the ice cream place, basically, is a big section.
So
I
the
think-
planning board requires weekly inspections, and after heavy rain events, but they don't give an event, so that doesn't really help. So,
I mean, I think half inch is the standard.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's give them the big bond and leave it at half inch.
Okay.
I mean,
It's gonna be a pretty decent construction period, that's gonna be a pretty good number probably.
It's pretty visible site too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
okay, any more input? Okay, I'm ready for a motion to approve the order of conditions.
Motion to approve the order of conditions for 242-1911 as amended.
Second. Ooh, Marissa beat me.
Close tie.
Okay, motion and a second. Any more discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous as well.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.